From tech ventures to retail, from startup to scale, entrepreneurs travel a lonely road, but our journey to create doesn't have to be alone. As faith-driven leaders, we are part of a vibrant community. The industry and address may look different, and yet our shared identity is firmly rooted in Christ. The good news? You don't have to hop on a plane to find this movement. It's wherever you are. This is especially true with our faith-driven entrepreneur groups. Gather with other like-minded business owners online or in person. Start with an 8-week foundation course. From there, continue meeting monthly. No cost, no catch, just connection. Already, thousands of entrepreneurs from nearly 100 different countries have connected with one another. Featuring dozens of episodes filmed around the world, video stories and teachings address issues common to faith-driven entrepreneurs. These groups give you time to share and discuss together, from our identity and our calling, to the ways we pursue excellence and steward what God has entrusted to us. Perhaps this is the first time you're in community with like-minded entrepreneurs. Or maybe this is quickly becoming a part of your journey. Wherever you are, others can meet you there. Be reminded that we're all connected to something bigger than any one person, business, or country. Faith-driven entrepreneur is made up of each one of us, and it is driven by all of us. Together, we're making the journey of entrepreneurs less lonely.
So let's start from praise and worship. We just have only one song, but everybody please stand up.
Thousand generations falling down in worship to sing the song of ages to the Lamb. To all who've gone before us, to all who will believe, we'll sing the song of ages to the Lamb. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name stands above them all. And the angels cry, holy, our creation cries, holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever. If you've been forgiven, if you've been redeemed, sing the song forever to the Lamb. If you walk in freedom, if you bear His name, sing the song forever to the Lamb. We'll sing the song forever to the Lamb. And the angels cry, holy, all creation cries, holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever. Hear your people sing, holy, to the King of Kings, holy, you will always be, holy, holy forever. Your name is the highest, your name is the the greatest, your name stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name stands above them all. The angels cry, holy, all creation cries, holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever. Hear the angels cry, holy, all creation cries, holy, you lifted high, holy, holy forever. You will always be holy, holy forever. Dear Father, thank you. You are the Lamb that was slain before the beginning of the world. You are also the Lion of Judah. And we thank you today as we come to worship you, to spend time in fellowship and in community. Thank you that you continue to speak now through your word and through the circumstances we find ourselves in and through one another. We just pray this will be a time now of encouragement for us as we really weigh on how our journey as entrepreneurs is really part of your kingdom. So I want to thank you for your time. We pray for your spirit to really rest upon this gathering. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much. Our second session will be shorter, and the second session is introductions. So we'll pass the mic. I think maybe most of us know each other, but there's still some new people coming. So let's introduce each other, and we start from Chris.
No, it's ladies first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, such a shame. All right, we start from ladies first.
I'm not new. Hi, my name is Jenna. I think some of you already met me. I think so, right? Except this lady, right? She's new, right? Yeah, I run a VC's investment club. We are a VC accelerator, so we help startup to scale up in terms of fundraising and also the marketing expansion. Also, we market alternative investment product, and so some of the products we are marketing like quant fund that can generate annualized return of 80% now. It's a pretty good one. If you're keen, well, we can talk further. Yeah, so also we do fund syndication to help project to raise money. Yeah, that's what we're doing here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Geraldine. That's my first time here. I don't know how to introduce myself, but basically I run my own family office, and we do selective investments into places with high social impact. And most of the time we take some form of control on the board. Small amounts is just a group of friends and people who believe in the same vision coming together. But personally, myself, I'm very involved in the agri-tech company, which basically we are distributors for the top agri-technology firm from the products of the top agri-technology products from China. What they do is basically they enable ecosystems of agriculture, farm management processes. So it includes things like agriculture drones, autonomous robots, sensors, and stuff like that. So basically, my distribution is in Indonesia. So I spend almost 70-80% of my time there. I have a business there, a company there, employees there. I'm back here because what brought me here? Well, I received this WhatsApp from Alex, right? So I decided to check it out. Yeah, thanks.
Hi. I'm Aiden. It's my first time here as well. I got to know this through the Faith Driven Entrepreneur Watch Party, and then I'm still very new in my faith, and I'm learning more. Very interested in how entrepreneurship ties in together with a faith-driven aspect of it, right? I have been unemployed for 2 years, retrenched unemployed for 2 years, and just only recently started coming out of a very bad mental health state. But prior to that, I used to found a tech startup for 2 years in Malaysia. I've worked in various startups. I've worked in venture capital and an accelerator before, and then in Web3 about 2 years ago before I lost that. And I'm just, wanting to come out, to learn more, to meet more people, and just climb back up again.
Can easily talk to everyone here in the room.
Yeah. So it's a journey, and I'm glad that it's through God that I managed to really find my way out. I just pushed everyone away. Not to ramble too much. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Aaron. It's actually my third time to be here. I'm
Tell me a story of how you end up being here.
Yes, so I'm a free thinker, by the way. So, but it's through Alex that I know FDE. Then, like I said, for the past 2 times, maybe God leads me to meet all of you guys and come to this community, and I do enjoy being around here actually. So what I do is I'm a staff founder. So in fact my staff is up there. So we are building an AI personal bespoke shopping advisor. So let's say you need to buy something, then after hours of shopping searching, you'll be overwhelmed with options. But imagine there's an expert who can clear your doubts and give you a recommendation list, right? You will be able to shop smart with no effort, and the list will be linked to the actual product from the actual merchants. That's basically what we do. We increase the efficiency of how a useful product will be exposed to you guys. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm the mentor in residence within U.S. Enterprise, so this is nominally my office here, so I can actually get back in and dump my stuff in the back office there. Let's see, and I worked with a series of startups in the U.S. before I came to Singapore, and so they decided I was too dangerous to put in one startup, so now they let me work with a lot of different startups. Let's see, business, what brought you here? Yeah, I've also been involved in faith-driven entrepreneurs, and I was at the watch party that Aiden mentioned. So, and I've known Alex for a number of years as one of my advisees. Fun fact about myself. Wow, I don't know that I don't have any real fun facts. My wife and I went to Antarctica earlier in the year, and we went down and took an expedition ship and ended up. Almost every day, we kayaked twice a day with the ice floes and the seals and the whales and everything. It was quite, I would say it was quite cool, but obviously it was quite cool since we're in Antarctica, but it was a lot of fun. Okay.
So what did you study in university?
I was a biology major.
And what did you do related to theater?
Oh, I was in Alpha Psi Omega. I was an actor in a lot of university plays and things.
I think that's very fun. I think it's a very fun fact actually.
Sang in the male chorus.
Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Yana. Today I come is because I'm interested in who is here, and I'm 6 years old and I'm K2. Next year I'm gonna be P1 and my primary school is paying, and I'm excited to go, and I'm so happy to see you today.
Yeah, we're also happy to see you. And we got somebody else coming, right? Okay. You first.
Alright, hi, good evening everybody. My name is Vanessa. I am a video producer at a video advertising studio. So it's focused and specializing in video production pretty much. So yes, and what brought me here mainly is because I believe in in being able to use like whatever the Bible has made and has shared with us in a way to be able to be used in business activities, which will in a way enable people, empowers people more above all else. Fun fact about myself, I do love arts, music, I suppose. So I do enjoy going to Esplanade now once in a while, thanks to Alexa's recommendation as well, because ever since he performed as well, then that's when I started to see, oh, Esplanade has so many things.
That's my fun fact. You stole it. Oh, I don't have fun facts anymore about myself.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, is this on? Yep. So my name is Jeremiah. I'm an American living here in Singapore. I'm kind of doing two things right now. So I'm working at an edtech startup. I'm helping lead an edtech startup targeting kind of the US market mostly. It's a curriculum SaaS tool. And then I started my own outsourced financial services firm, or like fractional CFO. So I'm trying to provide that for startups and other organizations. I'm here because I believe Jesus is the key to business and the key to life. And so I'm trying to meet other people that have that same worldview. And the fun fact about myself is I was just at this big Christian convention in Korea called Lausanne, and it was very much about like there's a big theme, a work track, and so it's a lot about like how do you integrate work and mission and I'm looking for the Great Commission essentially. So how are we achieving Great Commission through our work? So it was very inspirational and awesome event.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremiah. My name is Alex. I'm happened to organize this. I decided to lead the physical FDE here in Singapore because I think that physical fellowship is something that we lack so much since COVID. So when I realized that there's no physical group here in Singapore, we organized one, and so far everybody enjoying. We have people who come in every time. We get people who didn't even know that it's a Christian event, but they like it. So I also have a business. My business in advertising technology and in marketing technology. We have a platform that help marketers to build marketing strategy or to run ads. So large language models, very hypey topic nowadays. Right? So we do use them. We even were at Google recently for that, and this company is growing very fast from Singapore, very local company, but serving many marketers across the world, from London to US. A fun fact about me is that I play accordion. Yeah, there was a performance recently, and I've got 3 kids, and I'm bringing them for FD to let my wife rest a little bit at home. So I think this time we've got a topic that goes very close to my heart, because it's about us not worshiping work, and I think especially in Asia, in the culture here, especially when you run a startup, sometimes work become our identity and vice versa. Sometimes we start mixing things, and that's where things can go wrong very fast, I think. Today's videos all touched me very deeply, and I'm looking for a lot of very nice conversations, because entrepreneurs, they generate lots of ideas. They jump on opportunities, and I think it's very important for us to know that work is definitely not the first place that we should have. And I think it's how do you call it, the FFWF framework, right? The faith, the family, and work, and then fitness. I'm still keeping up on the last one, but at least the first 3, yeah, I'm trying to really balance in my life. So let's watch the video. We watch videos every time, and then in the end we can discuss, and then there will be pizza in the end and a coffee. That's how we do it every week, every month.
When David and I started Bandwidth, we wanted to be really intentional about our corporate culture. It was back in 1999. It was all about corporate culture back then. It was a time when the United States was moving to wearing a suit and tie to work every day to wearing t-shirt and jeans and flip-flops. And so we wanted to also be intentional about culture, which is what everybody was talking about. And I remember getting together and having dinner with David and talking about, well, what would our culture look like? And he said, if we're gonna have a corporate culture, it needs to mirror who we wanna be as individuals. It needs to be those values that are important to us. And those are faith first, then family, then work, and then fitness. Work is super important for us, but it's one of 4 things that we're called to do. On the fitness side, we have just a little bit more than 1,000 employees now, and almost 2/3 of them work out every day. Super important for us. It's not as important to us as our work. When we work, we feel God's pleasure. But then work in itself is not as important as our family. We have 9 kids between us, and it's important to be there for bedtime and bath time, story time. And then one night, it's a chance for us to take our wives out and let them know that indeed they're more important to us than our work. Then of course, the most important thing for us is our faith. It's impossible to spend any time with us and not understand the why of what we do. And we try to do that with gentleness and respect. When we go out on date night and when we see our kids play soccer games, we are able to show by example what it looks like to have many other things that are going on in our lives that are just as important, or in this case, more important than our work. Let's watch this video on this company that does a super job at encouraging values that love on their employees and their community.
To be honest, when I left, came from, I said I never want to work in consulting ever again. Always on the road, no saying where you go, no saying how long you get to stay there. There was a lot of people, myself included, who didn't want the strapping of that lifestyle, the traditional consulting lifestyle. And so Point B began as a way to solve that.
It really started with putting people at the center. And that we said everyone at our firm has intrinsic worth and value. We genuinely cared about their life. And not just everyone in our firm, but whoever we come into contact with, they're all equally valuable in our eyes. And we meant that.
And so our founders really had this idea of, hey, we could provide the same results to our clients. We could solve the same problems that our clients have, but we could also create an experience for our people that takes care of them too.
Give me a sense of what consultancy was like back then.
Well, consulting, you got to remember that in the early days, go back to say the mid-90s, early mid-90s, consulting was run like a machine. Big firms essentially used people as their means of production, and they produced deliverables for their clients. So the people were the machines, and they ran them like machines. I was working sometimes well over 100 hours a week, and I really had no life.
What was the shift for you?
So I kind of made that choice. I made that, or actually came to the conclusion that consulting wasn't going to allow me to have the life I wanted to have. So I thought, well, instead of taking care of a client, let's take care of the people in our firm, and then in turn let them take care of clients.
How long have you worked at Point B?
I've been at Point B 19 years.
Why have you stayed here for 19 years? What's kept you personally here?
The opportunities for me to contribute to the business, to help clients solve their problems, to chart a course for myself that allowed me to follow my passions was really something that I hadn't experienced before, certainly in other organizations that I'd been involved with. But also, I had just been at Point B for maybe less than a year. And my oldest son is an adopted son, and he came with a lot of special needs. And the way Point B embraced kind of this new big step in my life. After not knowing me for very long, really, was really significant.
Instead of asking people to commit everything to the firm and then hopefully leave the scraps for the rest of their life, we asked them to commit everything to their lives and just give us what you can give. We wanted them to have the life they wanted to live and wrap Point B around it, not vice versa. Not that we don't care about clients, but really our job is to take care of people. as we got going and things were starting to be successful at Point B, I get a lot of compliments. Hey, wow, you built such an incredible company, and you're such genius to figure out all these cultural things. And we actually, some of the things we did are now standard practice in the industry. But it wasn't genius. I mean, we borrowed it from, the Bible, but we never really brought that out. We didn't call it Christian. We just said, hey, here's the way we treat each other. This is just the way that we operate. We were probably about 10 years in, we started to realize that this thing had legs and it was going to be around for a while, but we also started to wonder, how in the world are we ever going to exit this thing? And we were getting asked by our employees, are you guys going to own this, the three of you going to own this forever? Or are you going to sell out to some big firm and this whole thing's going to collapse when the big firm comes in and imposes their values? So we realized we needed to have an answer for them. So we looked at things like going public. We looked at being acquired by a larger firm. We looked at doing some financial engineering. We looked at being purchased by a private equity firm, which is essentially a deferred acquisition.
I think their goal was to really think about how do we preserve the thing that we're proud of, the thing that we know works. And one of the best ways was to give it to the people who know the most about that.
I was pushing the ESOP option. ESOP is an employee stock ownership plan. I knew that was really the only way we could go because I think it was the only way that was going to be a win for everybody. And so ultimately we did settle on an ESOP.
And then it happened and here we were, ta-da, all of a sudden we're all owners. And we started to learn about what it meant to be an owner and really from then had our own journey of, well, what does it mean to be an employee owner? The longer you stay at Point B, the more your employee ownership shares grow. And it creates in people a longer-term view of why to stay that's not dependent upon necessarily wealth, but on the success of the business.
Ownership just seemed intrinsically good. We always said we existed for the benefit of our people, and then when we became 100% ESOP owned, that was literally true.
Existing for the benefit of your people, that might feel at some other places in contrast with this singular goal of making a lot of money or looking at the bottom line. What Point B recognizes is that those are very closely intertwined. We talk about we don't make widgets, right? We have people. So if you're treating your people well, you're feeding them and nurturing them, and you're growing them as a person, then that in turn will lead to people delivering really great work, which then in turn is really how we make money.
Point B does exist for the benefit of its people. When we look at our billable hours, plan out what vacations are you going to take, what time off, what things are you going to do during the year ahead that are going to help you maintain work-life balance. We also say, hey, can I take this from you? Looks like you're overwhelmed. You're not in this alone.
You're not hung out there to dry on your own. Like, we got you, just like a family would. And when crisis happens or when beautiful things happen, we celebrate together and we mourn together. And we support you.
I'm a mom of a young kid, and I have been so supported by Point B through my journey into motherhood. We absolutely are supporting that whole life aspect.
If I were to generalize how we think about what we want for our employees at Point B, we want them to think like professionals, feel like they're part of a loving, supportive family, and then to act like a business owner. And that means we're not going to tell you absolutely everything that you should do. We're going to think that you know how to do some of those things yourself, and you can make your own decisions.
Faith does play into a lot of my relationships at Point B.
My faith gets expressed at work through service to the greater good, to the greater community.
We have conversations about how we bring our faith to work and how people show up for one another.
It's a team of people who care about each other. They care about the welfare not only of themselves but of their clients. We all work to raise all boats. Like, it's not a zero-sum game. And to me, that's a real differentiator about Point B.
When people of faith approach business as a ministry field, business gets really exciting.
Point B is really a mission-based organization, helping every person find their purpose and live out how they were designed to be.
I've heard Henry say that a lot of entrepreneurs got into the work that they do in order to find a sense of satisfaction, meaning, personal significance. But most of us eventually figure out that we can't find it there. But for many, by the time they realize that, the damage to their life has already been done. I want you to consider these statistics for a minute. Entrepreneurs are twice as likely to suffer from depression as ordinary people in our society. They're 10 times more likely to suffer from bipolar disorder. They're twice as likely to have psychiatric hospitalization. They're twice as likely to have suicidal thoughts. There is a cost to placing your time, your energy, your efforts, your soul, the weight of your soul in one place. Entrepreneurship is an inherently lonely journey because you're the one who takes the risk. You're the one who puts your name on the line. You're the one who makes the decisions, and you determine the values, you set the precedents. That's a lot of weight to sit on a person's shoulders. Well, I can't think of a more fitting book of the Bible to address this ongoing struggle than the book of Ecclesiastes. The majority of the book of Ecclesiastes in the Older Testament is written by a man named Solomon, a man with seemingly endless wealth, wisdom, and a list of accomplishments that anybody would be proud of. The things that he invented, the new things he created in Israel were truly impressive. He explained in the book of Ecclesiastes that despite all of these things, life often felt for him like the Hebrew word he used was hevel. Hevel, that's a Hebrew word that literally means a vapor or smoke. It's like a cloud. It looks so solid and substantive from the outside. You remember when you were a kid and you looked up, you saw the clouds, and this looked like the kind of thing you'd want to bounce around in and play in. But then if you've ever passed through it in an airplane, you realize it's just vapor. It's nothing. If you were falling and you went through a cloud, you would go through it like it's not even there. It's just nothing. And Solomon said, that's what life felt like to me. It looked so substantive before I got there, and then I passed through it as if it was just a cloud like vapor. Solomon identifies 4 things in particular. He says that will disappoint us, that will fail us, even when we do them just right. He said, first of all, pleasure. Pleasure is going to disappoint you. In Ecclesiastes 2, verse 10, he said, whatever my eyes desired, I didn't keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure. Everything in Solomon's house was made of gold. He had the latest edition of everything. He was multi-talented. He was well-read. His kingdom was at peace. His business, so to speak, was surging. His power was unchallenged. He ate great food, and he had, scripture says, 1,000 wives. In addition to all this, he wrote New York Times best-selling books on just about every subject. He was one of the most popular songwriters of his day. He built the most impressive temple that the world had ever seen. He led Israel in a national spiritual revival. Again, that's a pretty good list of life accomplishments. Here's how Solomon concludes all that in the book of Ecclesiastes. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and all the toil that I'd expended in doing it, and behold, all was hevel, all was useless. I'm like striving after the wind. There was nothing permanent to be gained under the sun. Pleasure as a way of leaving you hollow. I read an interview with the CEO in Forbes magazine, a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, who said, I spent my whole life climbing the ladder of success, only to find when I got to the top that it was leaning against the wrong building. The second thing Solomon said is sometimes even the best business wisdom, perfectly executed, will fail us. Here's what he says in Ecclesiastes. Again, I saw under the sun that the race doesn't always go to the swift. The battle doesn't always go to the strong. The bread to the wise, or riches to the discerning, or favor to the skillful. Rather, time and chance happen to all of them. Chapter 9, verse 11. Sometimes, in other words, you do everything right, and somebody less qualified succeeds. Or you just get unlucky, so to speak, or somebody stabs you in the back in a way that's unfair and you didn't see coming. Business wisdom is great, right? And we ought to devote ourselves to it, but it's not foolproof. It doesn't always work, and Solomon says even that let me down. Number 3, he says, in the same way, worldly justice will eventually let us down. There's something meaningless that occurs in the justice systems on earth, and that is the righteous often get what the wicked deserve, and the wicked sometimes get what the righteous deserve. This too, Solomon says, I say, causes life to feel meaningless. Chapter 8, verse 14. Sometimes good, we know this, sometimes good goes unrewarded. And sometimes sin goes unpunished on this earth. And Solomon said worldly justice ends up disappointing us sometimes. Number 4, he said the fruit of our labor crumbles. Chapter 2, verse 18, Solomon said, I hated all my work that I labored at under the sun because I got to leave it to the one who comes after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool, yet he will take over all my work that I labored at skillfully under the sun. This too is hevel, it's useless. In other words, Man, I could spend my whole life building the greatest company the world's ever seen and the best values, and it's just built perfectly and it's profit making, and then I give my business to a fool, the successor that comes after me. We've seen that happen throughout history, haven't we? With kingdoms, with personal fortune, sports teams, business succession plans. There's just no guarantees. So Solomon, after concluding that these four things are just not solid enough to build your life on and to make your anchor point, he says, how should you live? He says, first, you need to realize that you're created for God. St. Augustine said it so well 1,500 years ago. Our hearts are restless until they learn to find their rest in you. Satisfaction and meaning are just not found in success. Satisfaction and meaning are found in the approval that comes from obedience to the Almighty God. Second, Solomon says you need to arrange your life around the certainty of judgment. It is the height of folly, Solomon says in the last chapter of Ecclesiastes, not to live with the awareness that for each of us is appointed a time to die, and then after that, the judgment. Death and the judgment of God are two of the only absolute things in your life. That judgment could come for you this afternoon. It could come in 70 years, but come it will for all of us. You know, Blaise Pascal, the French philosopher, gave a really interesting picture of the human race one time. He said humanity is like a group that's in a party in a big room, and all of a sudden into the party, the doors open and a monster comes in and just grabs one person seemingly at random and mauls them and then drags their dead body out of the room. And everybody stops the party and watches this terrible scene, and then just goes back to their frivolity. They're dancing and they're laughing and drinking and have a good time. But then a couple minutes later, it happens again. And everybody stops and watches, and then again. And every time after this horrific tragedy, they just go back to their frivolity. Eventually, you figure out the monster's coming back for everybody, but this doesn't distract the party. They stop in horror, but then they go back to their their messing around. And he said that monster represents our death, and we all know it's coming, but we live as if that's not true. And he said that's the height of folly, and that's basically what Solomon is saying in Ecclesiastes. The one thing you can be sure of is that you and I are going to stand before God. In light of that, Solomon says you ought to know how to count the days, right? And then you ought to think about how to make your days count. Number 3, he said you got to decide what God wants from you and pursue it. And that means being willing to take a chance on it. It doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but it means that when you figure out what God wants, you ought to go after that. He says in chapter 11, verse 4, one who watches the wind will not sow, and the one who looks at the clouds will not reap. In other words, you're trying to spend your life getting a guarantee, and you're just not going to get it. I don't care how much you pray or how spiritual you are. We just live in a world where there aren't these kinds of business guarantees. Here, what Solomon is saying, you got a farmer who never sows his seed because he's so scared the weather will not cooperate. What if it doesn't rain? What if there's a sandstorm? What if there's an earthquake? What if there's a meteor shower? Well, like we've seen throughout Ecclesiastes, the writer acknowledges that, yeah, no matter how spiritual you are, you can't control those things. And there's nothing in life that guarantees success. Not great skill, not careful planning, not even righteous living. You've got to embrace that. And chapter 11, verse 6, in the morning sow your seed, and at evening do not let your hand rest, because you don't know which will succeed, whether one or the other. In other words, don't let the uncertainty of life and the possibility of failure paralyze you. Just get busy doing what you think God wants you to do. In this life, nothing is guaranteed, even if you do it right. But risk is okay. Not all risk, not foolish risk, but some risk is right, and it's inevitable, and it's wise. Sometimes an entrepreneur wants an ironclad divine promise of success. You're just not guaranteed that in this life. But that is not supposed to discourage you from taking those wise, well-calculated risks. Even in Jesus' parables, the characters that he tells the stories about are commended for taking risks. So live by wisdom. That's all you can do. And take appropriate risks and trust that God will take care of you in success or failure, because you've got a God that's bigger and better than success, but a God that's also stronger than any failure that you could encounter. Lastly, Solomon says, if you understand this, you'll seek happiness in the present, not the future. Solomon explains that we have a real temptation, especially entrepreneurs, to always try to find happiness out there. Oh, if I just get to that point, if we get that amount of revenue, then I'll be happy. But it's not out there, he says. Happiness, Solomon says, is a gift of God for the present. You should look for it now, not later. If you're not happy, it's not a problem with your circumstances or how much money you make or don't make. The problem is with your relationship with God right now. Again, the philosopher Blaise Pascal in his Pensée said that the tragedy of many successful people is they never actually learn to enjoy life because they're always living to enjoy it later. Here's how he says it. We never live, we only hope to live. We're always preparing to be happy, but we never actually are. And I will tell you that I had the privilege the last couple of years of serving as the president of the Southern Baptist Convention. And when that was offered to me a few years ago, my ambition kind of kicked in, and I just really decided that I wanted to do it. And my wife looked at me and she said, I need you to understand that this is not going to make you any happier. It's in fact, if anything, it'll decrease your quality of life. She says, our happiness right now isn't found by how many people know your name or how successful you are. She said, the earthly quotient of our happiness is in the quality of your relationships with your family, in your church, with your friends. She said, had this great statement, fame is making yourself accessible to a bunch of people you don't really care about at the expense of those few that you do. And what she was trying to help me see, and she did help me see it, is that happiness is not something that comes from a certain accomplishment or getting my church to a certain size or selling a certain amount of books. Happiness is something that comes from the quality of the relationships I'm in right now, right? Even in earthly terms, Solomon says happiness comes from the present, not the quantity of exploits in the future. I point this out because I fear, and having seen this, that a lot of entrepreneurs look around at their lives many years later into the future and realize you gave away the greatest moments of your life to get some elusive future that just didn't deliver what it offered. The Apostle Paul says, godliness with contentment is great gain. The greatest gain that God can give you is not more stuff. The greatest gain that God can give you is contentment and the ability to enjoy what you have in the present. John D. Rockefeller was asked at the height of his career, the height of his earnings, how much money is enough? What do you need to make life feel complete? And his answer very famously was, $1 more. You don't want that to be you. You don't want to, no matter what you accomplish, always feel like happiness and fulfillment is in the next kingdom that you got to conquer or the next dollar you got to make. That's a miserable way to live. The point is, be excellent at your work, but don't turn your work into a god. Don't serve your work, but use your work to serve God. And discovering how you can do that is where we're going to turn next.
What a great look at the life of Solomon, one of the greatest leaders of all time, who was effectively looking for happiness and peace and all the other things under the sun. And we know how that ended up. And that also makes me think a little bit, of course, about Matthew 6:33, about the concept of looking for happiness and joy in what we wear or what our stock price is or how much we're growing month over month. Our hope is that this is a session that helps you really think about what we are pursuing. And are we consumed by our work? Are we trying to earn our own salvation? Or are we finding peace and joy in our relationship with God first and foremost? Then out of that peace and joy, do we then come to the altar with all that we are, our experience and our giftings and our talents, and do we do it out of gratitude? Of course, we are not immune to this pursuit of joy and happiness in our lives and our businesses as well. So the question for us is, what's really powering us? Is it our relationship with God that brings us peace and joy that really helps to sustain us? Or are we suffering under this yoke that feels really, really heavy? Our hope is that you'll engage with us and that you'll engage with others, maybe in a small group, to talk about what does it look like to work for the glory of God and working out of a sense that there's this God who loves us so much that he sent his son. But we're very grateful that you've tuned in for this, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
I think this is very powerful. Actually, when I was watching this, I remember one of the experiments I was reading about in one of the science paper. So there's a dopamine hormone, right? That is in charge of us feeling happy. So they were doing a test on monkeys, and they realized that the hormone is released the most not the when monkey eat banana, but a few seconds before it actually started eating banana. And sometimes I feel, me personally, that many entrepreneurs around me, they indeed chasing that banana, and then they actually they think that the happiness will happen in the future once they get $1 million ARR, maybe that $100 million ARR, 100,000. But the truth is that actually not going to happen, because I think we are very spiritual beings and creatures, and we actually not created to feel happiness from all the material things around there, right? And we are much more spiritual than we tend to think, and than the world educating us. So there's a couple of group things that we want to discuss. They are in the book you download it from the website, you will see this like a workbook. I didn't print them because we try to be sustainable, so but you can print it by yourself or you can put it on your iPad. This is just on the website. When you register in a group, you can see that. There's a couple of questions there. So for example, the first one, there was a list of brief statistics concentrated entrepreneurs what they are likely to experience, like suicidal thoughts, ADHD, which is I guess 6 times as I think I have ADHD as well. But yeah, it's actually nice to know that I have some excuse for that. Anyway, so a lot of different things we are all experiencing, and what do you think the reasons are for these statistics? And is there any way to deal with those issues? I think at least one entrepreneurial perspective and one VC perspective. So when you look at your portfolio, do you see the founders have it? When you're running your business, which is pretty much, this both sides, then how do you tackle with it, and what's the reasons for this? I think there's a couple of microphones around the hall. Do you see any? No? There should be at least 2 somewhere. Well, yeah, now you need to give a comment. Okay, so maybe you can share what you think about this question, or anyone want to volunteer? Okay, sure. We have enough mics. That's what Block 70 have. I want to have a lot of mics. Yes.
I mean, it comes from a very personal space for me, right? I'm not officially diagnosed with ADHD, but I believe that I do have it.
Same.
A lot of stuff, and comorbidity with depression as well, right? And why is that so for entrepreneurs or us in this space is because of unrealistic expectations, right? You go in, you grow a startup, it's always be a unicorn, right? VCs coming to you, they're always, you better 100x or you better at least 10x, because I know some of my other portfolio are going to fail, right? So you succeed. And that worldliness kind of fires us up, like, okay, we're gonna push hard, we'll do whatever it is, hustle. We're intelligent, we're smart, we'll find ways to get that revenue and grow and whatnot, right? So I've dealt with this through different phases of my career and life, and that's led to that burnout to where I am now, right? Looking back on all of this, so how we deal, and what ways have we dealt with it, right? Yeah. I guess only recently, right? It's just being contented, like he's mentioned over there, like look within and ask, be happy in the present. My happiness used to be, when can I make my first $10 million? When can I then go to $100 million and be off on the Forbes or whatever else it is, right? That was the measure of success or satisfaction. But really looking down, like, I've got family right now, I've got whatever, it doesn't have to be that anymore. We can still look into, financial stuff is still important, but be more grounded, be more realistic, and look into that present happiness in a way.
Okay, so is it like a wisdom? Is it something you also understood when starts going to church, or things happen independently? Is there any connection actually in your case?
For me, absolutely, right? Because for the past 2 years, like I was really down. I pushed everybody away. I was suicidal almost every day, right? I wake up and like, how do I?
It's supposed to be just 2 times more often, not every day.
Well, much more than one, right? But coming by, we all need help in some way or another, right? I think a lot of the systems in the world are broken, from a health perspective, mental health perspective, from a business perspective, whatever else it is. We live in a broken world. But for me, listening to God and sermons helped. At the very start, actually, the more I listened to, the more angry I got. because it was telling me, everything will be okay. Trust in him. There is a process to it, whatever it is. Read in the Bible, there's stories relating to that. But a lot of times I just got really, really angry. But as I earned a little bit more time, I'm just like, well, learn to let go and trust more.
I think this is the thing. I think the problem is that you have to trust first. And I think actually it's quite connected to their third golden, whatever the highlighted part, right? So, could taking a healthy or wise risk look like, and also knowing that things are not guaranteed. Success is not guaranteed, or at least worldly success is not guaranteed, right? How does it feel? And it's not always feel very good, because sometimes it's not just you, sometimes it's your employees there as well, or maybe, it's very easy to say, it's not my decision, I'm doing it for the whole company, so then I'll go against what God tells me. I'll just, play safe because I'm taking care of it. There's so many ways to explain to yourself a wrong decision, even that you actually know what you should do. And you have to have a lot of trust in order to still persuade what should be done, what you know, what is your calling. And it's just going back to our two original sessions, right? Making God your co-founder, or either even the CEO of your business, rather than just some faraway partner. Maybe you have some comment from the family office VC portfolio perspective. Do you see the founders having issues? What do you do? How it feels? Yeah.
The first question, right?
The questions are all around the same. So pretty much, the first maybe.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs, I personally feel one of the biggest reasons for having this sense of depression or suffering is because it's an identity issue. Especially for someone who's an alpha type, who has done well in school, has had some success in life, and then you embark onto an entrepreneurial journey, and then suddenly you face rejection, you face that you're not as good as what you thought you were. So it's all this sense of identity that is being attacked, and therefore you can either think of it as it's part of the journey, part of making me stronger, or you can take it as it's part of, I don't deserve this, the sense of entitlement. So I think a lot of this depression and suffering, I personally feel, is whether the ability or the inability to cope, relating to your identity. How I've dealt with is that I know I am a child of God. I have accepted Christ. He is in me. I have the Holy Spirit. And by faith, I claim that. And we talk about trust. It is trust. Trust in what? Trust in that you are a child of God. Trust that the Lord is watching you, and by faith you make the step. Whatever the outcome, it doesn't matter, because God is still with you. So I think that has made it easier for me, because in this journey, like that guy was saying, maybe this afternoon you'll just go back to meet the maker. So there's no point fretting over like, I don't deserve this, or I should deserve more, because we are not our own. We've been redeemed by Christ. So that's how I look at it.
Very nice set. So actually, I agree with you. This is all about trusting first, and generally, in Bible and the New Testament, I said a lot that you should make a step. You should actually establish that channel of faith and trust for things to happen. Sometimes they do happen even you are really deaf. Sometimes it's happened anyway because maybe you're plan of something else. Talking about success, what is success? Maybe success of somebody else and you're part of it, but maybe that would include your business to fail. It's easy, and we have to also accept this.
I look at it as every time it's a no, it's a protection. because
Yeah.
we don't know any better. So if we fail in something, it's not a failure at all. It's a protection, because God knows better and He's watching.
And very often that failure leads to much greater success just in a very short. It's just so scary that, you know, that will be that failure. I mean, there is a book called Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. If you haven't read it, just read that book. That's a lot about how devil actually manipulating us on using our imagination to paint all kinds of failure that we're gonna meet. They couldn't even happen at the same time. They're ridiculous, but humans are very good at painting it in the worst in the worst colors, and then gets obsessed by it and distracting actually from what God telling you to do. One of my favorite points here is about the King Solomon's perspective. So there were 4 principles that they were talking about. They were all around. Even perfectly planned business might fail. Somebody else who is less talented might get more blessed, achieve more success, or also those golden items, the last version of iPhone, or in our perspective, or last version of whatever, the best sequoia in your cap table, yeah, just putting it back into Y Combinator, yeah. Those things that don't really make you feel happy. So, did you experience that through maybe God show you that once you achieve it, you are not successful, or maybe you achieve it and you don't feel too happy, or you feel happy through something else? Does anybody has any experience to share about that? Let's don't be like in school, yes? Cool, yes. Thanks, Chris.
I mean, I think I think we have to distinguish. Sometimes when something good happens or we have a breakthrough, there's a relief because maybe we've been under stress. But I don't think that's happiness. That's just like, you know, the pain is gone for a moment. I raised the money. Like a lot of guys, they raise money, and they finally raise money, and they're like, okay, now all my problems are over. And I'm like, no, just your problems have just moved up to another level. You've got now, you know, you've got some uncle breathing down your neck. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. I think the first point, I think the reason we have a lot of entrepreneurs have problems, one of them is because I think, and I don't mean to offend anyone, I think sometimes if you're absolutely completely normal, you wouldn't be an entrepreneur. If you're just a real ordinary kind of average person that just wants to kind of get along, I think you have to have something a bit quirky about your attitude to just want to be an entrepreneur. There's got to be a fire in the belly or something. So I think we're more vulnerable people who are entrepreneurs. But I think the other thing is this whole idea of risk is, I guess I look at it as a Christian. You know, there was a guy who put it in perspective one time. He said, whenever something goes wrong, he thinks, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? And think about what that is. He says, it sounds very counterintuitive, but worst thing that could possibly happen is I die. That's like the worst possible outcome of anything I can imagine that happens is I die, you know, which is probably not going to happen, but that's the worst possible outcome. So what happens if I die? Well, if I'm a Christian, then I'm with God and everything is good. And he says, if you move back from there, he says, everything else short of that is like, whatever happens, I'm still with God. In other words, God is always there. God has not left his throne. God has not lost his power. God is no less God because I've had my business has cratered, or I've had a lack of success in some area. I think that's the point. I think the enemy takes us and focuses us on, Screwtape Letters focuses on our failures and our problems and our challenges and our difficulties. And God says, no, I want to take you up above that, and I want to give you a different perspective. And I think so. A lot of these things about success and risk. But I have just an unhealthy risk. I have a friend who's a Christian, and she's had trouble with her business, and she was actually in the red, and she went out and she basically sold off a lot of her own assets and put them into the business, and wasn't really enough to turn the business around. It wasn't enough money to turn the business around, and now the business is probably going under. It's not just the business, but it's actually her own personal like her home and things like that. And I remember thinking that to me is like, that feels like she was just too obsessed with success or with not failing. And when we get too obsessed with success or not failing, that's when often we do things that are very unwise and unhealthy. So I think even from a common sense perspective, a lot of this works, but I think a lot of it is, again, every time if you say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? And is God any less God because this has happened? It's like a check I do all the time. And if you do that, I think it reduces the pain and the difficulty of these situations, but they never go away.
It's a very good summary of the video, and actually the personal experience of Christian is what you realize. Anybody has more ideas to that?
Yeah, I really like the verse in Ecclesiastes. I don't know if this is the exact one he quoted, but it's the same line. I have it on my phone, and there's this app where it'll send you random reminders. So it'll just pop up on my phone to remind me. But it starts out, I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me, and who knows whether he'll be wise or a fool. Yet he will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. And this also is vanity. That's Ecclesiastes 2:18 and 19. And that's what he was talking about. And it's a thing I try to remind myself of frequently, because a lot of times when you start something, you want to build an empire, and that's not what the Bible calls us to. And the person that was one of the most successful in the world, I think maybe he was even worth in the trillions potentially, like wealth-wise, and who was, according to the Bible, one of the wisest people ever. He's like, it's not worth it. Like, don't build all this stuff. It's just not worth it. You're gonna leave it to someone else, and they may be a fool, and like there's no benefit. So like, why are you striving to do all this stuff? And it's just a really good reminder, because it's easy to be like, well, it's important. It's like, well, is it? Really, we should just be doing what God's will is and trying to seek Him first every day and serve Him. And for some of us, that will mean it's a business that's financially successful so that we can give those resources back to His kingdom. When some of us, it'll be less successful, right? But the whole point is Him, and it's not the striving. And the wisest man in the world has figured that out and told us. And so we're foolish if we're like, no, I still need to strive and accomplish a lot. It's just a very good reminder to kind of keep going back to and keep you grounded.
Thanks. Yes, I actually agree with you. I have some personal story. I'll tell very fast about the previous slide and generally chasing for the. I actually come from a pretty poor family. I'm one of those Soviet Union kids whose parents lost all their jobs in the 90s and completely no money. Nothing to eat, so the engineers had to went to the market to sell clothes from China to survive. So I never had all those things that my classmates had and all these things. So then in some way it helped me to push to build some business, and my parents were also doing business in a sense, just a small one, selling all those stuff because nobody cares, engineers at that time. So that helped me to get my first job. I remember myself going selling different stuff flat by flat when I was like 8 years old, 7 years old, just with a small margin trying to. And then eventually I started building business, and I started experience very different type of people. And one of my people I met was a CEO of Hewlett-Packard. He's still on my board and very good mentor of mine. But he was so kind to me that when I was expanding to UK, he said, just live in my house and just do whatever you want for as long as you want. Not Christian, by the way, but I mean, you don't need to be Christian to do good to people. So, and I live in the most luxurious part of the Thames. I've got Jack Russell's, the yacht, super huge house of 400 years old. Three Michelin restaurants around me, if you know the place called Bray in the UK. Just there, and everything. And I was still working on my startup at the same time, right? And honestly, I didn't realize too much of the differences compared to me traveling exactly in the same place and living in a hostel just a few months back. And I think I was really lucky for God giving me this kind of a live demo of what it is of having all this and actually making completely no difference to your life. So that helped me a lot not to chase the success. There were a few times when airlines were confusing the most economic ticket that I buy for me, and I was getting once a very luxury business class. As a live demo to understand that the backache is the same in the morning, usually, pretty much. I mean, it's the same. And then when you realize all these things, you start trying to have a much better vision and purpose for the business that you build. Because, when we buy a product, live demo is very helpful. The live demo of successful life per se is also very helpful to understand that you shouldn't have wrong focus when you're actually building your business. The same thing with fundraising, as Chris mentioned. You raise money, you actually get more problems. And you are usually, most of the times, actually worse entrepreneur, because you're getting money inorganically, you didn't earn it. You wouldn't be spending them as wise if you would be actually earning every single cent of that. Now it's the trend in the market, venture into, right? Everybody now have to earn or die, which is the worst thing could happen with you as a company. The difference is that you're not going to meet Jesus immediately after your company bankrupt. So this is, I can relate to this topic of today a lot, every single part that we're discussing. So maybe we take just one more of these questions, and I really encourage you to take the rest. I'll post the workbook for this whole sessions for 1 to 3 and the rest, and the video in the chat later, so you can take it and register in a group. But just generally speaking, maybe we'll take one more. Have you seen good actions go unrewarded in your entrepreneurship journey, and in what ways can you keep your eyes on Jesus' help with the stress of this particular principle? Amazing question. Now let's say after this session you decided to be really redemptive. You're doing well, people cheat you, you are loving them, and that's what I'm trying to do most of the times. I'm trying to do all the times, right? So now this hasn't been responded, at least at the moment. You kind of don't see much different back to you, just doing those things. So how? What are you gonna do? Anyone went through this, and what's the way to conquer? Wesley, did you went through this? No?
Not in this context.
Not in this context, but maybe in some other context without mentioning. Later we will beep you in the videos if you name some companies like there.
Okay. I think we are into. Is this on? Hello. Yeah. Probably I'll just read out so that I can understand what this context is. So it says that the worldly justice eventually lets you down. It says that faulty justice system can make life meaningless. So how have you seen good actions go unrewarded in your entrepreneurial journey? And what ways can keeping your eyes on Jesus help with the stress of a particular principle? So I don't really face such faulty justice in systems, because I feel that in Singapore we have just systems in place. However,
I'll put that on YouTube.
It's fairly tight in terms of justice in Singapore and the policies in place. Nothing is perfect, but however, I do see that there are loopholes here and there, whereby it is just part and parcel of how countries are run. So what I feel that when things go unrewarded, for me, I have a habit of reading the Bible to get a broader perspective of things. So that's how I do it when I read the wisdom literature in the Bible, such as the book of Proverbs, the book of Ecclesiastes, and the book of Job. These 3 wisdom books talks about wisdom in entirely different perspective, which helps me a lot, because it tells me that In the book of Proverbs tells us that that wisdom and knowledge and doing right will help you grow and you will be rewarded. But likewise, in the book of Job, which is also about wisdom literature, tells us that even Job, who is so successful, has been put to a test whereby everything is lost. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, talk about King Solomon, who has gained everything, but ultimately, towards the end of his life, even though he is the wisest king, the richest king, the most powerful king, but I read deeper, I understand that he is a deeply flawed king, whereby I think he felt that he probably was rebuked by God when God said that he is very angry with him for worshipping so many gods towards the end of their life. So, having read broader perspective of things, actually I have a calmer sense of self that even though things go southwards, or even if you are very successful or what, but as long as you seek God and do His will, and I think that in itself is a fruit of joy in me. So that really makes me encouraged to take the next step in the entrepreneurial journey. Thank you. What do you think?
Last comments.
I actually ever heard of someone say, if you really feel down and everything doesn't go your way, go and look for a spiritual mentor. Yeah, so maybe that will help. I'm not sure. Yeah, so especially if we are so new in the Christian journey, I mean, your faith is not strong, you might need someone to guide you.
And that's why we have this, so that's why we introduce each other every time we meet. That's why we're gonna commit to do it every month, despite the rain, despite the tiredness and the businesses. We all run businesses. Actually, we probably the most busy percentile of people in Singapore. But it's really great that we are all here and we are doing the right things. This kind of things will be multiplied multifold in the ways you couldn't expect. Since I started running FDE, I received so much business blessing that directly not related to this activity, but a very clear sign that this is what we are doing is right, that's where we should meet and we should help each other, because it's a very lonely journey, but it doesn't need to be. So, thanks so much. We are done. We should have that pizza in the back because it's 2 pizza unopened. So we're gonna finish it. We get coffee outside there, and we all commit to come in the months from now in their next session, which is Excellence Matter. And so we'll be talking about God's excellent work and how it will reflect the love of Christ in those who do business in us, the perfection and excellence, the way God has created the earth and all of us. Yes, if you haven't joined the group, join the group. This is where I'll put the questions behind the link to the new video.
What's the date for the next session?
Yeah, next session will be the second Wednesday. It's actually there is a. Have you joined the group? Join the group, and if you join this, which you also should, because that's how the FDE seeing who is actually participating in the sessions, and give the materials and send their email list. So then that QR code will lead you to the page of FDE, and then you actually get all these meetings in your calendar. And the reminders and announcements of the FDE community of the new years and also very, very useful. The system there is pretty rigid, so you cannot really change the dates and all these kind of things. So but it's also helpful because we're going to have it exactly in a month on a second Wednesday of November. All right, enjoy your pizza. Today they replaced pepperoni with some other Singaporean flavor kind of pepperoni pizza, which is a surprise. I don't know. We're gonna see how it looks like. Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys. Have a blessed evening.